Book of Heaven, Volume 35, March 28, 1938. How for those who live in the divine will, the creation serves as many cities where the creature can repatriate. How the human act must begin and end in the divine volition in order to be complete. Reign of light. The greatest sorrow of Jesus is to see that creatures do not live in his will. My poor mind keeps going in search of the acts done by the divine volition. It seems that I look for them and they await me, to let themselves be found, because these acts yearn to be found by the creature, to receive her "I love you," and to let her know how much they love her, while the soul feels as though repatriated in the acts of her Creator, as though immersed in the ocean of joys and happiness. And my always lovable Jesus, seeing me surprised, repeating his short little visit, told me,
"My blessed daughter, since man was made by us to live in our will, all our acts were to serve as many different cities or nations in which man would find by right his fatherland. The different cities where he was to find his amusements, his joys, and the enchanting and delightful scenes that his Creator had prepared for him with so much love. So it can be said that the sun is a city, and as the soul enters into our will, she finds this city of light, with all its varied beauties of colors and of sweetnesses. She finds our creative and festive act full of joys, of love, and of unspeakable happiness, and she dives into these seas of beauty, of sweetness, of love and joys, taking her long strolls as in her own fatherland, rendering herself the owner of the goods that she finds in it. Oh, how happy we are in seeing our works, our cities created only for man, no longer deserted but populated by our children. In fact, upon entering our will, they find the way that leads them to the different cities which we have formed in creation. And in some they find a delight, in another a distinct joy, somewhere else a more outstanding knowledge of their Creator, and someplace else a love so intense that embraces them, kisses them, and communicates to them the life of love. Each created thing possesses something of ourselves, not for itself, but to give it to the creatures. However, the creatures must live in our will, otherwise the doors remain closed. At the most they can enjoy the effects, but not the fullness of the goods contained in our works. Therefore, my daughter, in order to be perfect and complete, the act of the creature must begin and end in our will, which administers its very life of light and of love, so that the act may be complete, and nothing beautiful, holy, and good may be lacking to it. If it does not begin in our will, it will lack order, sanctity, and beauty. Therefore, the human act cannot be marked with the seal of our will, as an act that belongs to it. It makes one want to cry, my daughter, to see so many deranged and disordered human acts, some left at the beginning, some halfway, some lacking one point, some missing another, and then even worse, some are smeared with mud, some with rot, some are as though soaked in guilt, and do nothing but irritate our just justice. Therefore, without our will there cannot be any good in the creature, and even if it seems that they do some good, it is an apparent good which cannot last, because the substance of the life of our fiat is missing. One challenge, one disappointment that arises is sufficient for that good to end, and they regret having done it. Instead, anything done in my will possesses an unshakable firmness, and does not stop in the face of disappointments or challenges. Rather, these acts run even more, to give the life of the good which they possess. Now, you must know that the creature who does her acts in our will makes complete and perfect acts, but the one who lives always in it finds herself under a continuous reign of light, such that as she moves, palpitates, or breathes, so do all the effects of the varied beauties of our divine life pour upon her. Our divine being is most pure light, and though being endless light, it encloses all possible and imaginable goods. While being light, it is word and all eyes, it looks everywhere. There is nothing that can hide from us. This light is work, it is step, it is life which gives life to everything and to everyone. It encloses inexhaustible beauties, joys, and happiness without end. Now one who lives always in our divine will is always under the reign of light of our word, ruling and creative. And oh, how our word transforms this creature, speaking to her constantly about our supreme being, and producing all our divine effects over her, with such variety of beauty that we ourselves remain enraptured. Our gaze of light is always upon her, our step keeps running toward her. Our works embrace her with their arms of light and clasp her to their bosom. All of them pour light upon her to communicate to her fulling. Our gaze of light, our works and steps of light. So, one who always lives in our will is always in direct communication with her Creator and receives all the effects that a God can produce. On the other hand, one who only operates in it is in communication with our works, and her works are molded with ours.
Then I continued to keep track of the acts of the divine will, and as I arrived at those which our Lord did in redemption, I kissed them, I adored them, I blessed them, I thanked them, one by one, and taking the same love with which Jesus loved them, I loved them too. And Jesus, all moved and touched in seeing his acts being loved by his same love, told me,
My daughter, it is always love that touches me and wounds me, and it moves me to speak in order to reveal my secrets to my beloved creature. Secrets which are hidden to those who do not love me, because, not loving me, they would not understand my dialect of love. Now you must know that each one of these acts done by me on earth contains a sorrow so intense that if my divinity had not sustained me, it would have been enough to make me die. So as I operated, my divine will created in me the sorrow of not finding the human will inside mine, so that I might enclose it in my acts and give it virtue and grace to make it live in my will. In everything I did, even if I just breathed, palpitated, looked, or walked, I looked for the human will in order to enclose it and give it the primary place in my breath, heartbeat, gaze, and steps. What sorrow, my daughter, wanting to do good and not finding anyone to whom to give it. I wanted to put the creature in a safe place where she would have been happy, because my pains, my works, and my very humanity would not only have been her defense, but would also have formed her royal palace in which they would have kept her like a queen. But instead of being grateful and listening to me, she ran away from my hands, from my pains, to live unhappy in the midst of dangers and enemies, with no one to defend her. What sorrow! What sorrow! I can say that my greatest sorrow down here, which gave me continuous death, was to see the creatures neither living in nor doing my will, because I saw that my acts remained without the purpose for which I was doing them, without giving the life with which they were invested. Had it not been for my all-seeingness, by which I could see all centuries like one present act, in which I saw my beloved children who would live in my divine will, and would make use of what my humanity did and suffered in order to establish my kingdom, using it as the most beautiful dwelling for them, I would not have been able to bear so great a sorrow. Therefore continue to keep track of my acts, my steps, my pains, to ask me for my will to come and reign upon earth, and my sorrow will be soothed and will turn into love, so as to shorten the time needed to make my will known and loved, so that it may reign. I will keep you as my refreshment, and as bearer of balm for my pains. And when I see my acts and my sufferings embittered by sorrow because the creatures are running away from my will, I will come to take refuge in you, to soothe and embalm my pains, too embittered by the sorrow.
Fiat.